alluded to, one approach could be normalizing everything to 5 years, and then the same thing on pricing. And so it's like, what do you do for new registrations? What do you do for existing registrations? How exactly does that go about? And then we can sort of, figure out whether or if we move forward with that.
Yeah, I'm happy to put sort of a template together and stick that on the forum.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I would almost think that changing people's registration time would be more contentious than adding multiple addresses to or multiple users domains to an address, but I don't know. So I guess my question though is kind of back to the original statement. I'm fine with an off-chain. I think an off-chain voting system is a great idea, but will the developers honor the results or the wishes of the community? Because I've just heard the word never so many times that to me never means never. I don't care what other people think, never. Maybe it's just poorly worded, but that would be my question: is what happens when we take this vote, and if the community is like, yeah, we kind of like want to be where the rest of the industry is, and things like that. What's the pushback then?
Can you give some context to the never comment? I'm not 100% familiar with who you're talking about or what the context is. I mean, I can guess, but I want to be useful.
Yeah, so if you go to the thread where we're talking about this during the upgrade, there's quite a few times where it's mentioned by a developer or two that this is never going to happen. We will never accept multiple domains on an address. And so, like I said, again, I think it's a great idea to vote. I think it's a great idea to get where the communities, to get the communities feel. But if the developers won't agree to do what the community wants, what's the point? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Here's what I think that there are a couple things going on here. I think that there's I think it's unclear what the number of developers are and what that even means. I can imagine who's saying this.
Yeah,
but I think that so I actually just got back from an event, what was an election for an organization. And when I went there, we thought one person was going to win, but once the votes came out, it turned out there was massive support for the other person. So I think that what happens often in these situations is it's very unclear. People say things publicly, they say maybe I support A or I support B, but in reality maybe they support C, and that doesn't come out until they vote in a way where they're anonymous. And so maybe the value of doing some sort of off-chain, even just a straw poll, would be to get an idea of what the actual view is. Because I mean, if you ask me, when it comes to, for example, multiple names, I would say there are probably I don't know, a single-digit number of people that are against them, and on a large part, most people are probably for them or don't have an opinion. And I think that actually some sort of poll would at least give us facts, not facts, but just give us information where we can say we can feel more confident in that position. And then get a better picture of what reality is, as opposed to just being oh, that person's very loud or well known, and they're saying X, Y, or Z. Would that help? Do you think?
Well, again, and that's what I'm wanting to know, because Gamma came in. Gamma has data. Gamma presented data. This is what we've actually been told, and so again, I'm all for a vote. I'm all for data. I'm all for making decisions based on data. Again, I just kind of come back to, will the developers honor the data or honor the results. And yeah, I'm trying to leave it vague because I, don't want to, especially if somebody's not represented. I don't want to, kind of throw their name under the bus if they're not here to speak for themselves. So,
I can speak to a couple parts of this. I mean, so one aspect is like writing the new contract, and I've volunteered to lead the charge on that, and if others want to be involved, then that's fantastic. But I think that's kind of where it stands right now. And so I can speak for myself and say I would honor what the community wants based on this. And I think there's a number of items for example that I put in the forum that seem like not that popular, that I think are good ideas, and I'm fine with personally saying I'm not going to just put in what I want. I'll put in sort of what the community wants.
Right.
And then it comes to the question of how this 2.0 contract is activated, and the two broad options being as a new contract with a method for porting over the entirety of the state on a new address, and in that sense, it's really a matter of like getting that new contract adopted. We're not shoving anything down anyone's throat. Like, so you could technically build an app that uses BNS 1.0, and if everyone else adopts the 2.0, then you're kind of just in the dark. But at least that's an option. And so that looks a lot like, for example, ETH goes to proof of stake. There's still a proof of work, but no one uses it because sort of like there's this social consensus around the new one.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, and then if the Stacks hard fork approach did come through, I think even the possibility of that requires a little bit more thought and discussion, like even from like a technical perspective, how that would happen. In that case, it's a little more tricky because you kind of do have no choice. But it's it sort of points to an argument of why a sort of quote unquote soft fork is better for everyone, from at least a contention aspect, maybe some other downsides.
Cool. No, that's fine. That answered my question. Let's see. I think we had a couple other things in here because Snazzy won't be able to make it. So Snazzy was like, "Hey, can we talk about a couple things?" Hank, you've been working regarding the UD thing, and I know we can't go into a whole lot of detail because of non-disclosures, but do you have everything so far you need from Wendy?
I do, yeah. So far, it's really just been, her asking me lots of questions and me pointing lots of resources to her.
Okay.
I mean, you've seen some of the questions that I've asked, but yeah, there's no blockers at the moment that I know of.
Okay. Yeah, and on that, we're just literally waiting on trust machines. Which brings up the other thing Snazzy had on here, which was BNS's need for a treasury. Instead of, I think what had been discussed, and again, I don't know if this has openly been discussed or this was just side mentioned, but instead of burning the STX, moving it into a treasury where there's a voting apparatus for actually building and growing BNS, things like marketing, partnerships, all of that sort of stuff. Have y'all given any thought to that, or how would that be handled?
Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think there's been any like public or in this working group discussion on that.
There was a brief discussion.
For example,
There's a brief discussion, Hank. I think I listened to the last call that perhaps wasn't the last call if Larry and Ragnar met, but the last big one. It's posted on YouTube. There was a brief discussion around the complexities it would offer in terms of would you need to set up a DAO or a single entity or whatever.
Right. And I think I'm remembering I was there for that.
To a conclusion, I just think it was mentioned.
Yep. Yeah, there's a couple of ways to go about that. One thing I'd also mention, this is an idea that Jeff had just in a discussion we had a while back, was, if this approach went through, potentially there could be an option where when registering or paying for a renewal, you have the choice to either burn the stacks or to, essentially donate them to whatever thing is managing these funds. It's kind of interesting to me. You still have to deal with all the complexity around, okay, how do we decide which, literal address / multi-sig / contract, whatever manages the funds. But I think it's kind of an interesting angle to sort of preserve the historic behavior and introduce, an optional new thing. I'd really like to hear from others also, just high level thoughts. What's your reaction?
I'd actually, I'd be open to that because, again, like you said, it gives people the option. If they truly want BNS to grow, it's not like you're keeping the two stacks regardless. It's either getting burned or it's getting donated to be used to grow the community. So yeah, I'd be open to that.
I think it's a nice touch because it doesn't look like you're just grabbing money, but the reality is anybody that's buying a name is want to be invested in the ecosystem. So you'd probably see a decent proportion of stuff flowing. So I think it's very important that we, people are we are able to do things, marketing, pay devs for time. The more people we can have looking at this, the more functionality we can build out, the better. And I think it doesn't hurt to have, I think ENS has grants and various things. We might be a while away from there, but that sort of thing is certainly useful for the ecosystem.
Yeah. It's possible that had my statement, because everybody else isn't in some of these chats, my statement on this was, had this been set up a year ago, it's very possible that instead of knocking on Trust Machine's doors, presenting, sitting on our hands, hoping, waiting to hear back from them, we could have just moved forward with this deal and already been working towards getting integrated into hundreds of wallets. So yeah, if we want to grow, I think we need funds that, regardless of if it's Stack signs off on it or the council or some, again, we've got to come up with processes and stuff for that. But I think the first step would be trying to get consensus. Are people okay with a choice? Is it burned or is it donated?
I think it's an interesting thought experiment, this current, partnership thing, without mentioning, the amount. It's not a small amount. And so, maybe sure if the, BNS Council was the sole kind of signer, then you could just, go forth and do it. But I wouldn't be surprised if it ended up with a different form of kind of red tape / delay / contention of, should it go to this? Should it go to that? These things are always messy in sort of DAO communities. It's still, very, very much might be worth it, but it's just sort of, I don't know, a point I'd make.
I think maybe it's the best thing to try and find the path of least resistance for how you could manage a pot of money and who controls that wallet could be changed later on, I guess, if the DAO got set up properly or people wanted to do that. I think what we should probably seek out is how we can implement that change and start using money to do things regardless of who's in control of it. And I imagine the path of least resistance to that is some sort of, I don't know, central authority is not the thing you want to say in these sort of discussions in crypto, but you know what I mean. Rather than trying to set up a DAO and the legal structures that go with that would probably take us a long time. And there's stuff happening now that we could do with cash for.
Yeah, I think we definitely need some sort of a multi-sig to release any sort of funds. You know, obviously more than one person would have to agree on it. But yeah, the whole process of setting up an actual DAO, if we could avoid that and all the legalities and stuff that goes along with it would be nice.
I mean, if you're gonna have income, so income's gonna have to go somewhere. Someone's gonna report that someplace, unless there's someplace where they cannot report it. Someone's gonna be responsible. Like
Yep.
it just it seems like this isn't like we've all realized that like compared to other name systems, we don't have this pot of money. And I think I can personally say why I've not pursued it either individually or on behalf of my company is because it seems like a legal minefield, and it's not like I saw it's like regulatory stuff is not stuff I want to get involved in. Like, I've seen stacks go through it. And so it's really who wants to go through and deal with that? And so that's one question. And the second question is like, well, I mean, the way stacks pitched to people, if you look back in the forum, originally you burned Bitcoin to register a name. Now you burn stacks. And so like the value proposition of like what is the value of stacks? Well, it's going to be burned to register names. Now we're saying, okay, well, it's not going to be burned. It's going to be sent to people. Maybe we had that ability in the past back when it was Bitcoin, but we removed that also for regulatory reasons. So you add it back, and the question is, do you want to add it back to existing namespaces? Which sounds like, from listening to what people are talking about, you'd like to add it back to like .btc or .id, or do you want to add it back only to new namespaces? Which I think are two different things, because one is changing the rules sort of in mid-play, which has happened before, which happened with our, we had multiple, now we only have one name, like somebody changed the rules in mid-play. So there's a whole bunch of issues here. And I guess it's like, who's willing to deal with that? Like, is the question. Like, who wants to hire the lawyers? Who wants to set committees? Who wants to do the compliance? I don't. Raising my hand here.
I agree with all that, Larry. I'd be the same. I don't particularly want to do it. I mean, you mentioned that Stacks have been through it. Was that the Stacks Foundation? Is there an entity there that's been through and has a stronger legal construct that could hold money?
Hero PVC was the original entity. It's currently called Hero, and they went through all the filings. I mean, Gina's on the call. She knows about this. Like, so I don't know who can help with the specific issue, but it's complicated, I'm sure. It's probably, as a developer, it's not something I particularly want to be spending my time on.
Yeah.
First step would probably be talking to someone at the foundation. Number one, get perspective, because you probably really do want a foundation model. So you're not just like paying income tax on every single registration. And then also to get perspective on, how realistic is this? Would the foundation, even be interested? All that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I would say that, like, if people think that setting up a DAO is complicated, then trying to set up a non-DAO structure that takes funds, that sort of gets through a lot of hurdles on this side, is probably going to be harder. So that's just one thing to consider.
Okay.
I mean, I guess what I hoped, which I guess has not appeared to this moment, is that people would build use cases on BNS, and then be incentivized, like companies that build on it would be incentivized to contribute resources to help forward BNS, as opposed to sort of like a centralized BNS. Like, so if you look at how DNS was developed, like on the internet, there wasn't like a DNS foundation. Like, people started building stuff on DNS, and then those companies were like, oh, well, we our business depends on this. We should send people that we pay to be on these working groups, and it seems like that hasn't happened. That's sort of I hope things would go forward, and I don't know. I mean, what other people expected, or what your thoughts are on that.
Yes, hey Larry, I have a question. So I was talking to Snazzy about just the idea of hosting websites with BNS, and I feel like that could be a very good use case. It's not as utilized yet around the Stack ecosystem. I wonder, because remember, that would be a great to empower other individuals who are building Bitcoin websites with Stacks BNS domains. Uh, what are the technical difficulties in doing so and just using that BTC for storing building websites? Because that would be very interesting if we could support the next businesses. Because I have caches that BTC, and I'm like, that'd be interesting if I could use this as a that BTC website or something like that.
If you want to message me, I'm happy to chat with you. I mean, we only have 3 minutes left, so I don't want to take up other people's time, but I'm happy to walk with you through the technical steps of doing that. It's not that hard.
All right, for sure, definitely. I'm gonna send you a message on Discord. My name on I'm the BNS council member, so I'll send you my Discord name. It's Cordy Jose, but I'll message you on there on Discord as well.
Awesome, great. I'm looking for it now.
If there's an opportunity to be part of that, I'd quite like to be part of that as well, if possible.
Great.
Okay, so we have about 2 minutes left of our actual scheduled time. I'm happy to stick around until 30 minutes past the hour if other people want to chat. But it would be nice to have like some action items. It sounds like we have a bunch of things going on. One is the financial part. Another is just sort of an information collection part. Like let's take the temperature of what people want. That seems like that's something that's pretty actionable. Should we like talk about like how we can do either a survey or a poll or something like that, some sort of voting off chain to get an idea of what people feel about the more controversial issues? Would that be useful for people?
Yeah, that would be good, Larry. I've got to jump in 1 minute. I think I'm down for an action to put something on the Stacks forums around standardizing registration periods and stuff. I don't know if you want to record that anyway. The other thing I wanted to just update people before I run is we have a meeting. I think Hank, myself, and Snazzy have a meeting tomorrow with the team from GoDID, who are interested in listing BNS on their marketplace. I first found them because they link directly out from ENS. I think they largely support EVM domains at the moment, but they're quite keen to talk to us. So I'll be able to update at the next meeting how that goes. But yeah, sorry for jumping in. I got to run. Thanks, Eric.
Awesome.
I'm let's see. Maybe the shortest action I could take or quickest is I'm happy to write up some technical details about how this can be done. Using like cryptographic signatures and stuff, so we can sort of verify, these are our actual community members. What I would appreciate help with is coming up with sort of like the social consensus or like kind of consensus determining options of A, what to vote on, and B, how do we know when something is sort of like determined.
That would be great. I think it's proposing a mechanism for determining social consensus or voting. Is that what you're suggesting? Yeah, and I'm saying if someone else could contribute on the sort of like what we're voting on / what sort of the rules are of X number of votes and X percentage and stuff like that, I would appreciate that help. And then I'm super happy to write up and then put development work into like the actual voting mechanism, regardless of what the rules are. Cool. I'm happy to contribute to some ideas. I mean, like I want to vote what to vote on. That'd be great. Anybody else? Silence. Okay. Well, Hank and I will work on that.
What kind of what kind of help would you need?
I mean, one idea is that especially the BNS Council folks could just really help getting the word out once that's actually ready. And I think also just in advocating for more feedback on the forum now, just to kind of get as many voices and activation as possible.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
I could definitely help with that. I have a newsletter with over about 3,000 subscribers. I could create a article about that. That helps.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm happy to promote or tell people, you know, hey, go here and make your voice heard. I've tried to do that with the forum a few times. I think maybe some of the blockers is, you know, you have to register and all of that, and I don't know. I thought we'd get a lot more feedback than we did, but yeah, I'm happy to continue to promote or point people wherever, you know, we need them to go to make their voice heard.
Awesome. That sounds great. So maybe we could start a group in one of the Discord chats. Maybe the BNS DAO. I'm good. Okay. Okay. Anything else we should talk about, or do we want to call it an evening or a morning?
I'm gonna hop off, but great chatting, everybody. Thanks for everything. Appreciate it.
Okay. Awesome. We'll try to have something regarding this by the next meeting.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
Okay. Thanks everyone. Have a good day.
I guess.
Bye.